Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this harrowing talk about Unit 731, a dark chapter in human history that unveils the atrocities of human experimentation during World War II. In the 1930s, the Imperial Japanese Army established a secret military facility in the heart of Manchuria, China. The purpose was to develop biological and chemical weapons and study their effects on human subjects. This facility would come to be known as Unit 731. Unit 731 was a covert biological and chemical warfare research unit of the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. It was started by the Imperial Japanese Army and was led by General Shiro Ishii. The unit conducted heinous human experiments on prisoners of war and civilians in China and other occupied territories, with the primary objective of conducting research and experiments related to biological and chemical warfare. The Japanese military wanted to develop advanced biological weapons, gain a better understanding of infectious diseases, and find ways to protect their troops from potential attacks. They sought to enhance their military capabilities through the study of human experimentation and the testing of lethal agents on prisoners of war and civilians, which led to horrific atrocities during the war. Shiro Ishii was a Japanese army officer and microbiologist who served as the head of Unit 731. Born on June 25, 1892, Ishii played a pivotal role in conducting gruesome human experiments and developing biological weapons for the Imperial Japanese Army. He was responsible for overseeing the activities of Unit 731. Unit 731 was located in Pingfang, a suburb of Harbin in the northeastern region of Manchukuo, which was the puppet state established by Japan during its occupation of Manchuria in the 1930s. The main victims of Unit 731 were Chinese, Korean, and other Asian civilians, as well as prisoners of war during Japan's occupation of Manchuria and other parts of Asia during World War II. These victims were subjected to horrific human experimentation, including exposure to deadly diseases, biological weapons, and various forms of torture. The prevailing belief in racial superiority and the dehumanization of the victims allowed the perpetrators to justify their actions as serving the interests of the Japanese Empire. Additionally, there was a desire to gain a strategic advantage in warfare by developing biological and chemical weapons, which led to the implementation of experiments on live subjects. The research conducted at Unit 731 aimed to test the effects of these weapons on humans and to find ways to spread diseases more effectively. Furthermore, the lack of accountability and oversight from higher authorities within the Japanese military and government allowed Unit 731 to operate with impunity, fostering an environment where the most heinous acts could be carried out without fear of punishment. It's crucial to acknowledge that these actions were flagrant violations of human rights and moral principles, and the atrocities committed by Unit 731 remain one of the darkest chapters in human history. The victims of Unit 731 were sometimes referred to as Maruta, which means logs in Japanese. This nickname was used to dehumanize the individuals subjected to the unit's horrifying human experiments and atrocities. According to historical accounts, a young Chinese student named Wu Hongda, who was studying medicine in Japan during the war, overheard Japanese soldiers using the term Maruta to refer to the victims of Unit 731. Wu, not understanding the true meaning behind the word, thought they were talking about actual logs. However, he later discovered the horrifying truth when he witnessed the atrocities committed by Unit 731, and the term Maruta was used to describe the human experimental subjects who suffered unspeakable cruelty at the hands of the unit's researchers. This incident, along with his experiences during the war, deeply impacted Wu, and he later became a prominent figure in raising awareness about the atrocities committed by Unit 731. The methods employed in these experiments were extremely cruel and inhumane. The practice of vivisections, for example, involves mutilating human bodies to study the functioning of living systems, without anesthesia. Thousands of men and women, including children and elderly farmers, as well as Chinese communist captives, in order to study the effects of diseases such as cholera and the plague without decomposition after death. Patients were injected with diseases, and then had their organs removed for examination. Amputations of limbs and reattachments of limbs were performed, while others had their limbs crushed or frozen, or had the circulation disrupted to monitor gangrene progression. The remaining prisoners were typically shot or killed by lethal injection, though some were burned alive after their bodies were used up. All the Chinese, Mongolian, Korean, and Russian captives assigned to Unit 731 died in captivity. The doctors of Unit 731 reportedly displayed a range of emotions while performing gruesome experiments on their victims. Some may have felt guilt, remorse, or horror at their actions, while others were likely desensitized or conditioned to follow orders without questioning. It's important to note that these actions were deeply unethical and inhumane, and any emotional responses they experienced do not justify the atrocities committed. The unit's activities have been widely condemned for the severe suffering they inflicted on innocent people. The guards at Unit 731, much like the doctors and other personnel, were also involved in carrying out the inhumane experiments on victims. They may have experienced a range of emotions similar to the doctors, including guilt, remorse, fear, or desensitization. It's likely that some guards were coerced or pressured into participating, while others may have willingly followed orders due to military discipline and loyalty. As with any historical event involving significant atrocities, it's crucial to understand that individual motivations and emotional responses can vary widely. Nonetheless, it's essential to remember that the actions carried out by the guards, doctors, and personnel at Unit 731 were morally reprehensible and in violation of basic human rights. These actions have been widely condemned, and the unit's activities remain a dark chapter in history. There are limited accounts regarding the thought processes of individuals involved in Unit 731 during the aftermath of World War II. Many of the unit's personnel were granted immunity from prosecution in exchange for providing their research findings to the Allied powers, particularly the United States. As a result, some members of Unit 731 went on to have successful careers in post-war Japan without facing any legal consequences for their actions. While specific stories of their thought processes are scarce, it is known that some individuals involved in Unit 731 grappled with feelings of guilt and shame after the war. They faced the burden of their participation in the atrocities committed during the unit's operations. However, the lack of accountability for their actions and the desire to move on with their lives allowed some to avoid facing the full extent of their moral responsibility. After World War II, Shiro Ishii faced immunity from war crimes prosecution in exchange for providing the United States with information about the research conducted during the war. He was granted this immunity through a secret deal with the U.S. government known as Operation Paperclip. After the war, Ishii avoided prosecution and lived a relatively free life until he died of throat cancer on October 9, 1959, in Tokyo, Japan. His post-war life remains controversial, as many criticized the decision to grant him immunity given the atrocities committed during Japan's Unit 731. After the United States obtained the valuable research information from Shiro Ishii, the U.S. government used this acquired knowledge to advance its own research in the field of biological warfare. This information was also shared with American scientists and researchers, contributing to the development of defensive measures against potential biological threats. Hey, what's up guys? I'm very excited to share with you that this is my very first YouTube video. I'm so eager to create more long, informative films such as this one in the future. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching and please have a wonderful day. Goodbye.